Welcome to Laugh, Cry, or Die, a comedy disability podcast hosted by two human trash bags. My name is Steve Wilbury, and with me, as always, is my lovely co-host, Naomi Stain.
Hello. Sorry. Hello.
Who today is voiced by Jim Henson, apparently. Hello, I'm
Very
Naomi,
tired.
the Muppet.
Yes, I'm. Hello. There we go. That's my normal voice.
Is it though? Is it though?
That's actually my telephone voice for customer service. How can I help you?
Oh my God, I want to slap my phone already.
I'll talk my normal voice. Hey, there we go. Hello, there I am.
I love that it took...
I had to turn into an old man first. Damn those kids.
I hate hip-hop.
There, we're all normal.
Right, so welcome to Laugh, Cry, Die. Today's topic is going to be drugs, or as we're going to have to say on social media, Drugs.
Drugs. Yes, and not illegal ones, not anything fun, but the shit side of drugs.
Shit side of drugs. We might talk a little bit about fun drugs.
Okay.
Because I find them fun.
You get better ones than me.
Well, no, but like I'm more like off-brand prescription, as it were. Wink, wink. Nudge.
Okay. Yes. Special medicine. I mean?
Special medicine. The earth's the good bush and the happy shroom.
Yes. Yeah. I think you should talk about those.
So lovely. So because Naomi and I have different medical dramas, I'm just going to go for a little bit of mine first, and I'm just going to tell you guys what I take. Why not?
Yeah, do that.
I think a lot of people this day and age take prescriptions, but nobody likes to talk about it and all that stuff. But that's what we do. We talk about, say the quiet part out loud, but not racist. Yes. No, that's what Republicans in America do. They say the quiet part out loud.
Oh yeah, true. Yeah.
You really are tired.
I really am. Like the last 12 hours have been a crazy whirlwind of broken brain.
Actually, you know what? Despite me saying that, because you've said that, let's go ahead and talk about what drug was it that has messed you up so profoundly recently?
Okay, well, it's a combination of the tiredness from... I had the seizure yesterday and the seizure the day before, so to have two in a row is quite... Well, it's not rare as such, but it's a little unusual. So the one 2 days ago, it was bog standard, normal seizure, did this to my wrist, which is, I've got a splint on it at the moment. It's probably broken. I've broken it before and I've dislocated it before, but there's no point in me going to the hospital and getting it checked because I've had so many scans and x-rays that I'm practically radioactive. So if they can avoid it, it's the very last resort is giving me an x-ray. So going in for my wrist would be pointless. So breaking anything leaves you a little bit tired anyway because your body's trying to fix it. So that was tiring. And then yesterday I had another seizure that I wouldn't come out of, and apparently it was slightly different to my normal ones, where I wasn't shaking around much. Well, they said not at all, it's just my eyes were flickering, but I was foaming at the mouth and not responding to anything. So eventually they had to drug me with midazolam, which is kind of a muscle relaxant. It's the first point of call when the paramedics turn up to somebody having a seizure, and they try and avoid it with me because of, again, the amount that I have. And a lot of the time they give me an amount that makes me have to go to hospital because I won't wake up. But yesterday they gave me half the maximum that they're allowed to give me, and I did eventually come around. But before I came around, they put me in, not a wheelchair, but those wheelie ones that they can tip back and get you out of small spaces, or it's kind of a two-wheeled thing, and they strap you in round your middle and round your arms.
Oh, like it tips back.
Yeah. Now, because I was so out of it, my head was flopping forward, so they had to use the strap that goes around your forehead as well. So you're full on Hannibal Lecter, you're full serial killer strapped into a chair.
But did they serve you a nice bottle of Chianti?
They did not. I didn't even get a cup of tea. I got some water though when they gave me some painkillers, so hey, that was all right. But when I came around, I don't 100% recall, but I know that I bust out of the head strap, because when I come out of a seizure, I can be kind of agitated, not aggressive. It's more of a frightened, I want to get out of here. And so as I tried to sit up and get out of the chair, I bust out of the head strap like a lunatic. And then, so they'd given me some drugs on that. So when I came round from that and they'd left me and I'd had some painkillers, just over-the-counter painkillers, I sat there and suddenly started feeling ridiculously sick. And went, oh, okay, this is unusual. I don't throw up a lot. And filled one of those twisty sick bags that they'd left behind and thought that would be it. And no, from 9 o'clock last night until just before we started recording this, I've been pretty much thrown up the whole time. Like the last sort of 3 hours of laying in bed going, oh, I don't feel good. I've not been throwing up. So hopefully I won't mid-pod just heave and throw up over there.
Try and get it on camera.
On camera?
Yeah, people pay
I have to
for
do it
that.
sideways. Do it sideways so I don't get it on my laptop.
Yeah, no, that would be good. And then it would be a better shot as well because you could get kind of the arc.
Oh, yeah, proper movie projectile.
Proper, like, yeah, and like put some effort into it, you know. People don't want to see a weak puke, you know.
They want to do it, go for it.
Yeah, like I find, if you're gonna heave, fucking heave. That actually
just remind me if you see me start to heave, just give me some moral support, some encouragement.
I'll be like, come on, Nay, you can do it.
Yeah, get a good one.
Go on, get clear the 50-meter mark. Can you imagine if you hurked 50 meters? That would be insane.
I wonder what the furthest projectile vomit is.
I feel like that's the kind of thing that they don't keep in the Guinness Book of World Records.
Oh, come on, there must be a recording of it somewhere.
I reckon it's like in the back office, but like
I'm going to just quickly Google that. Furthest projectile vomit.
So what was it about? Why have you been puking so much? Was it a reaction to that specific medicine? Was it your seed? Like what?
I think it's combination because I have that medication a lot. Oh, hang on. Projectile vomit, 1.2 meters. That doesn't seem that far. Yeah.
I reckon we could be that.
So yeah, the midazolam, I've had it so much that it generally doesn't. It leaves me feeling washed out. It leaves me feeling real tired, and that along with the tiredness from the seizure can make me feel really kind of bluesy and weak. But I think yesterday's vomiting was a combination of my normal medication, the meds they gave me, the tiredness from 2 days of seizures, and the physical injury as well. So I think all of that is kind of like a perfect storm of...
And then your body was just like, too much, must eject.
Yeah. And actually this year has been, I've got my seizure journal here.
Oh.
I have to record all my seizures. Basically, so if they turn up to me and I've got a black eye, they know that it was from a previous seizure. So let's see. So I had one.
Oh my God. I just had the best idea that's wildly inappropriate.
I kind of like it. It's making me cry, but that's a very selective. That's for the Patreon. That's not for public release.
Yeah, that's
those sort of things.
How we'll do the Patreon. Well, the Patreon will have this really wrong stuff on it.
So when we cut back in the podcast, so we cut back to now, that what's just happened is conversation that isn't allowed publicly, but on Patreon it is.
Yeah, it was very funny and really very quite wrong.
And it has made me cry with laughter. So that's a good sign.
Moving on.
Yes. So in the last sort of short while, I had seizure yesterday with drugs. I had a seizure the day before with no drugs. And that's
you sound like you're ordering from a menu.
And in number 33.
Can I get a seizure with drugs, but better drugs? And
a side of salad.
And can I have a concussion with a dash of bleeding?
Just a dash, no stitches though, thanks.
No, thanks. Glue would be all right. Glue's okay. Have you got ranch?
So, seizure yesterday with drugs, seizure the day before with no drugs but a damaged wrist, and then a seizure 5 days before with drugs and the hospital. I'll only go back that far. So in the last sort of week, that's basically 3 seizures, 2 lots of drugs, and a broken wrist.
And your body just went, just no.
Yeah, that's plenty, thank you. Oh, and I did take one painkiller that for my wrist that was gifted to me.
Oh,
Um,
is it a
just
spicy painkiller?
just it was a tramadol,
Right.
which is, it's not one of the hardcore ones. It does make people a little woo, a little bit woozy. But with
So,
me,
I find it really funny when people are like, "Do you do you want a tramadol?"
I know, right?
And I'm
It's like,
like,
yeah,
"Well,
go on.
if I wanted something, I would take the morphine I have in my bag, but thank you for offering."
Yeah, yeah, morphine would be preferable. But one of the points with tramadol is it does make me feel mildly nauseous. It doesn't make me throw
Tramadol
up.
really fucks me up. It
Mm.
really like it's not my friend.
It doesn't make you a slight happy or anything.
No, it makes me feel like garbage.
Right.
It
It
just
just it makes me feel a little bit sick, but the danger, well, not real danger, but the slight concern with tramadol is it lowers your seizure threshold slightly. So you are mildly more likely to have another seizure. But
whilst
yeah.
on tramadol or with regular use of tramadol.
I'm not sure. They just put it in my notes that it's one of the side effects of tramadol is that it
Huh,
can. So I'm not sure if that's
there you
yeah.
go. I
Yeah, so
learned
it's one that
something new.
I try and avoid it, but sore wrists mean that it was kind of
Sometimes you
good.
need to have one.
Yeah, yeah. So
So,
the drugs
so
yesterday that they gave me kind of kicked that off. But there's certain combinations. It's kind of like, well, I guess technically it is. It's chemistry.
mm,
Trying to get the right levels of drugs. With me,
mm.
I'm pretty sensitive to them, and another time, I will tell you all about the time that I spent 6 weeks in hospital and nearly died with a whole combination of crazy meds that they gave me. That was all very exciting. But it's all a balancing act of trying to have the least amount of seizures with the least amount of side effects.
Right.
And the level I was on, I take lamotrigine and levetiracetam. They're the two that seem to give me the least seizures.
I'm just
Uh,
gonna have to interrupt and say
mhm.
both of those sound like Harry Potter spells.
I know I'm currently floating off the sofa. It's
You
fine.
say if you say Leviteratasam whilst a rock and roll record's playing backwards, Satan appears
And it makes the cat explode.
and it makes
So
the
I
cat.
tried to avoid saying it, but then if you say lamotrigine, it puts it all back together. It's reversey. Um, and
It's the reverse Uno of Harry
I
Potter.
try not to explode my cat. Um, but so those two drugs seem to be good. Now, every now and again, they try to reduce or increase one or the other to see if it helps. I know that it's at a good level as it is, but my doctor and neurologist, I guess they kind of have to tick the boxes. So they started messing with it, and all of a sudden, my seizures gone haywire. So it's, okay, I think the two are connected. When they try and add other drugs, that's when things start to get exciting.
Hmm.
So one of the parts of having seizures is that I can get kind of bluesy. I wouldn't say depressed because people get properly depressed. I would say that mine's more bluesy. So when I first started on particular drugs, they put me on citalopram, which is an
Yeah.
antidepressant. One of the side effects of citalopram is suicidal thoughts, which doesn't help if you're having suicidal thoughts. Kind
Mm.
of seems a little counterintuitive, which actually a side effect of the epilepsy medication is seizures. So um, so when they
Now
put me on
I'm no
citalopram,
doctor.
I know, right? But I guess they have to put a list of
Oh
the
no,
generic side effects.
they're legally required to put every single thing that ever happened to somebody
Yeah,
once if they were on the medication, even if it wasn't directly linked to it.
then
So
they
yeah,
say we
it's that's
warned
why
you.
like in this, have you ever seen an American medication commercial?
I have. That's weird.
And at the end, they're like, ask your doctor today about citalopram. Citalopram may cause weakness, bladder dysfunction. Your captain,
List
blah,
of
blah,
things.
blah, 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 blah.
Yeah,
I'm pretty
yeah.
good at improv, and I couldn't even improv all those off the top.
Works. So
Right.
that was the antidepressant that they added in. Then when I ended up in hospital, just before that, I was having seizures kind of every day. It was getting on top. So they
Mm.
added Epilem into it, which sodium valproate is its official
Oh,
name.
I've had sodium valproate. It's horrid.
It is horrid and made me go mildly bonkers. Um, and didn't help with the seizures. I was very confused. I was very tired.
Mm.
But what they said was, oh, okay, we'll keep with that. You just don't like the side effects. And then it got worse and worse, and then hospital.
Right.
But one of the most interesting out of all the drugs they give me, that's most interesting, and they try and avoid it, is one called phenytoin, which some people will just start them having seizures and knock them out. With me, it makes me go properly mental. Like the first time I had it, I woke up and I literally didn't know, like my perception of space was gone. I didn't know if I was lying down, I didn't know if I was standing up. When I was lying on the bed, I felt like I was going to fall flat on the floor, even though that would have meant
So like
floating.
your whole ear was munted, inner ear basically.
Yeah. And so that was like, okay, I do not know what's going on. And the nurse kept trying to tell me, just breathe and chill out. I knew she was wrong. I knew that the world had turned onto its side. So she was wrong on that.
Obviously, this woman is
I
insane.
know.
Of
She was like,
course,
trust me.
the
And
gravity's
actually,
wrong.
when I'm really drugged, I turn into a moody 14-year-old boy. So she'd said to me, just close your eyes and you'll see it's all okay. And so I went, all right, shut my eyes for a second and opened them and went, see? Like I just proved to her that she was wrong, Anyway, she helped me walk to the bathroom, which is across the corridor. And because I couldn't walk, obviously I didn't know how the floor worked. And as
It
she
was
was
on
walking
sideways,
me,
wasn't it?
oh, it was all nonsense. And so she kind of helped me get to the bathroom. And either side of the long corridor, like down the long corridor, there were, like in horror films, there was people in medieval sackcloth spying on me. And you can hear that dun 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 dun, that music.
Mm.
Yeah, that it was that kind of vibe. And so they were watching me and I could hear them whispering about me.
That
And
does
not
not sound
just
fun.
no, and not just, oh, that looks a bit like that. It was 100% they were standing there. It was proper full on hallucination. And so she took me back to the ward, and in there was a man walking in circles around my bed, and I could hear him whispering on one side. Now, what it does with me is my sound, I can hear a little sort of rustling sound on one side, and by the time it gets to my other ear or to the other side, it's changed into a voice talking about me. It makes me super, super paranoid. And so, with this man walking around my bed, I could hear him on one side, and then on the other ear, I could hear a lady whispering. There was a cat in the ward, and I was also underwater. It was tricky. And so they try and avoid that with me. I've had it a few times. But
So is it just this one medication that does that to you?
it's phenytoin. Yeah, it makes me
Right.
hallucinate big time. And so the last time I had it was a little while ago. And the reason they could tell that I was going a bit crazy was the nurse came into the room and I was kneeling on the bed on all fours, staring at the wall like a startled deer, apparently. And so I know, so I've got such dignity.
I love this image of you in your discreet gown, just like ass flapping in the wind, and then nurse comes in and is like,
What's
huh,
happening, Nate?
I think I might need an extra 5 minutes with this patient because
Yeah.
obviously she's on the moon.
She is crazy. Yeah, full on. Like I'm just not with the world. To calm me down, she talked me down and told me it's just phenytoin, but I would sort of go in and out of believing her and then being super paranoid.
Would you
And so
forget that you'd had the phenytoin?
no, because sometimes they have to, and so they
No, I
try
meant like so like in the middle of your hallucination, are you like cognizant enough? That's probably this is what
to.
you're saying, is that like to be able to be like, oh no, it is I've had the phenytoin, or are you so busy being in an underwater cat land
It
that
nowadays when I have it, when it's hallucinating, when I'm seeing stuff, that's the reality. I'm not aware that it's anything else.
right.
But when I have the moments of clarity and I'm just feeling massively paranoid, like every noise is people slagging me off behind my back. When I get to that point, I can go, are they, or is it the drugs? So I
Right.
have enough awareness to question it at that point. And I'm such a geek. Once I realize that I've probably had phenytoin, I have to try and distract myself. And I do maths. I pick two random numbers, a big number and a kind of smaller number, like one in the thousands and one in the tens, like 37 or whatever. And I try and multiply them or I try and divide them, like right down to the point, 0.1873 or whatever. I really try and drill it down. And I know that I'll never solve it, but by concentrating on trying to solve it, that keeps my brain kind of on a normal.
All right, so it keeps your brain doing something that makes sense instead of just trying
Yes.
to invent things that are.
Yeah, yeah. But yeah, that one when I was the startled deer, what they did, which was genius, they got a whiteboard and put it at the end of my bed and wrote, it's just the drugs. They gave me phenytoin. You're in the emergency department, right? In ICU. Everything's okay. So every time I'd open my eyes all scared, I'd see the whiteboard and go, it's just, yeah, that makes sense. And it really, really helped. And it's like just that little reminder was great.
Whiteboards are fantastic for basically everything.
Yeah, for reminders that life is just happening. It's all right. Just
And also,
breathe.
I'm looking at mine now, and it's got my list of things that I need to do. So when I'm like really like spun out, or if I'm having,
Yeah.
and I'm like, okay, it's my time in the day to do tasks.
Yes. Yeah.
Look at my thing and be like, okay, what can I do in this time frame that I've got or whatever, and it just stops me forgetting things and helps me to just put a little bit of shape to my
Yes.
day.
Yeah, and it takes a little bit of brain power. It gives you some more because you're not taking up space in your brain trying to remember and think about all the things.
Well, this is part of it's a little bit kind of spoon theory thing where it's like just the idea, just remembering what it is I'm supposed to be doing and then getting everything ready to do that is like 1.5 spoons, like just the process of getting that far. Whereas if you can just look up and be like, okay, today I'm doing my physio now. I can order my new water tanks this afternoon.
Yeah, yeah. I do similar without the whiteboard. I carry a notepad around. It's always near me. And so I have a thought and I can scribble on it. And my seizure journal helps with the sort of like long term. And I say long term, I mean the week. That's long enough term to think ahead. And so I can kind of structure my week a little bit. I can spread my chores out a bit, but then I have my daily one as well. And I cheat a little on my daily one. I'll put something that is super easy, like have a coffee. Or, because then when you cross something off your list, it feels really good. It gives you a little dopamine hit.
Yeah.
But I'll even put on there, have a shower.
Self-care is important, man. It's a
Just,
big rant for
so
me.
like the big stuff's on there and the little stuff, even if it's like I've had an interesting thought and it's like, oh, I'll Google that later. I'll put it on the list of the things to
Things
do.
to do. All right, so that's a good one as well. So if you're like, oh, I'm gonna research, well,
Projectile vomiting.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And then when you're like so munted that you can't even do the big stuff, you're like, oh, well, at least I've researched projectile vomiting. So
Yeah.
and I
It's
think
something.
we talked about it a bit before, but that whole management thing of like I have done a thing,
Yes. Yeah.
that is huge in terms of getting out of the wallowing pit of despair that your
The
life can turn into.
awful existence.
Oh my, it burns my soul. So I've actually had a number of the same medications as you, Naomi,
Mm-hmm.
because when I was getting ready to go to pain camp, you have to try every single medical intervention that is possible. So that when
Right.
you're at pain camp, you know that there is nothing more medically that can be done, and it's
Okay.
all down to my management.
And
So
when you go to that pain camp, do you take your regular meds and things
you
with
take
you
your
still?
yeah, you have your regular like medication regime.
Right.
But you know that there's no one pill that's going to fix it, which is
Right.
how most medicine works these days. Like you're unwell, take this pill. Now you just have to take that.
Yeah, and that actually just on that does make doctors and people be doubtful and judgmental because you don't fit into a tidy little box.
Yeah,
And they can
totally.
kind of dismiss you if you don't take the magic pill.
Yeah, you're not in their paradigm, their wheelhouse. It's like,
Yes.
and I think maybe that's on one of the benefits that we have from this is that I have a much more complete understanding of what health is and
Yeah.
how, than probably my GP, to be honest, because it's all connected in all these weird different ways.
And you've got all the research from various different avenues, whereas a doctor like, your GP or your specialist, they know their area. They
Yeah.
don't necessarily know the hundreds of other people
Yeah.
that you've dealt with.
So they were like, right, before you can go to pain camp, you need to try every medication that you can. And they, including 3 different old epileptic drugs, like the
Okay.
old timey ones. So I had
I
a
like
couple of people.
cocaine and
No, that's for toothache.
true.
Just rub a bit on your gums.
You'll be fine on your kids' gums, they'll be all right.
That'll be all right. Bit of numbness goes a long way.
Well, it's like that meme, and they go, old timey doctors.
Oh yeah, just
They
like,
go, oh, you've got ghosts in your blood. Do some cocaine about it.
yes.
Perfect.
I think it's do cocaine and drink brandy.
Yeah, why not?
Which, I think cocaine and brandy are friends.
I haven't actually tried that.
Well, maybe we should get an 8-ball and just some nice brandy and have a night in.
Like, yeah, is it working for you? Yep, it's working.
Have I told you how really amazing I am? Did you know that I'm amazing? Everyone else on cocaine is really annoying, but I'm super awesome.
I'm the best person in the world.
And everyone needs to know.
Anyway, apart from the cocaine,
apart from cocaine,
did they give you?
Like sodium, like valproate, like just like the really old ones, because what they're things that they thought slowed down your nervous system a bit.
Right, yeah.
So it's good for slowing down your nervous system when it's overwhelmed with pain, and it's good for overwhelming your nervous system when you have too many seizures, which is quintessentially your nervous system getting overwhelmed by itself.
Yeah.
But God, I felt horrid. Like, so before I took the medication, I could solve a Rubik's Cube.
Right.
And after I took the medication, I could not solve a Rubik's Cube. I could not. There's a magic trick you do where you throw an unsolved Rubik's Cube up behind your back and then you catch it solved. And it's a really cool thing. And there's like, okay, I'm going to tell you a magic secret. There's a thing that you do that makes it work.
Oh, right? Wow. That sounds brilliant.
And in Magic, most of these things are actually pretty simple. But in the Rubik's Cube one, it's a little bit complicated. Okay. But not so complicated that my non-medication brain wouldn't be able to solve, couldn't do it.
Right.
And then they put me on these medications that
okay, say that again without yawning.
And they put me on these medications, and I could not solve a Rubik's Cube. Which
was that mental and physical dexterity?
It was just the mental dexterity. Okay. It was like my brain was wrapped in a rug.
Right. Okay.
And I would just kind of sit and stare at stuff and just be like, and this is where like a whiteboard helps, because you're like, what am I even supposed to be doing right now?
Is that when Rachel fell in love with you?
Yes, when I could not string a sentence together coherently. It's what really bonds a relationship, is when one of the partners can't talk.
But at least you shut the fuck up. That's what she likes.
She likes it when I'm quiet.
Yeah.
And one of the things they were talking about at pain camp is like they try all these drugs and they only have a 30% success rate. And the doctor was like, if your microwave only worked 30% of the time, you wouldn't even like have it.
Yeah.
It seems pointless. But when you're kind of at this really full-on edge of where the normal medication helps, a 30% chance is worth taking a swing at, even if it doesn't work and makes you feel like shit. So for like
give it
3 months, I was on and off 3 or 4 different seizure medications of me going like, take it, wait for it to build up in your blood, yada yada yada.
Just put
And
up with the
then,
side effects.
yeah, and I'm like, okay, I've had these for a week and I still feel like crap. Can we go off the next one? Like, okay, but now we have to take you down slowly off them, because if we
Mm-hmm.
take you off them unexpectedly, your cat will explode.
Yeah, yeah. You will die.
You will actually die.
Yeah.
Actually die. The worst one though was when I got serotonin syndrome.
Oh, that's kind of. Oh, I was going to say too happy, but it's not.
No,
It's overloaded
serotonin
with the happy,
syndrome
isn't it?
it is where basically SSRIs, like the
Mm,
serotonin reuptake inhibitors, which are commonly used as antidepressants, but
mm.
can also be used for pain management as long as they work on the same like adrenaline based pathways that you get from
Okay.
pain. So I'm on some for the inevitable depression that comes with chronic pain, but then some other SSRIs that also help with the chronic pain.
Right.
And then I was also taking tramadol, which A doesn't agree with me, and B, if you take tramadol with SSRIs, you get this buildup of serotonin that
Right. Okay.
overwhelms everything and can kill you. And
So
I go on.
does that? I was going to say, is that like a sick? Like, does it make you real nauseous, or does it screw the brain? Or
It really depends on what your how it manifests in you. Basically, it can
oh,
you can,
okay.
I'm just looking it up now. So you got agitation or restlessness, insomnia, confusion, rapid heart rate and high blood pressure, dilated pupils, loss of muscle coordination, high blood pressure, and muscle rigidity. So this is you can have loss of muscle coordination or muscle rigidity. So you can be
Yeah.
floppy or too floppy, or too
Yeah.
stiff, you know?
Too stiff. Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
That's it. That's yeah, and it's difficult because when you say certain side effects, like I've got a headache, I feel nauseous, I'm tired, then the doctors will dismiss that.
hmm.
But that can be like your warning signs or the start of things are going wrong. And so you ignore the, let's say, the minor sort of symptoms,
Yeah.
even though they will build up and give you the hardcore shit symptoms.
Well, I had these really extreme abdominal pains,
Hmm.
which could have been just abdominal pain from my central sensitization. It could have been this, it could have been that, but what turns out it was a serotonin syndrome, and I ended up
Right, right.
losing my job and all this stuff because we thought it was all these other things, and then eventually one of the doctors was like, "You might have serotonin. Let's take you off this tramadol." And then like a week later, I was like, "Oh, look, I'm not dying anymore. Fantastic."
Yeah. And
It's
so
yeah, it's a funny beast. It's a funny beast.
and that was what were you taking then? That was the
That was tramadol
combination.
and pregabalin. No,
Oh, pregabalin, that's the pain one. Yeah. That's like a
it is
nerve.
also an anti-epileptic, but it gets used a lot for pain because it's better tolerated than gabapentin, which is the other one in the same family that targets that GABA receptor.
Right, okay.
So the
So it's
reason, go on.
I was going to say the first one that you said that sounds like pre-goblin. I can't remember the name of it. I had that when I broke my leg, and they said, "Oh, try this," and I did, and it's nice. That made me feel very nice, but extremely sleepy. But yeah, they said, "Okay, we can stop giving you that one now." I went, "Oh, I
You
like
know
that."
what? Actually, my favorite drug that I had was a ketamine infusion.
Oh my god, I had ketamine once. It's the best thing ever. Not that I'm
I
advertising drugs to
no,
anybody,
so
but
I think for the last chunk of the show, I think we talked a lot about like not fun experiences. I think we should talk every once in a while. You get a pharmaceutical that's like, oh yeah, I could do that.
yeah,
Give
yeah.
us some more of that.
I think
Uh,
ketamine is one that could easily develop an addiction to.
oh yeah. Like,
Yeah.
well, the other thing that was really I found interesting is that so they gave me a ketamine infusion when I had my neck surgery as like a
Okay.
post-operative thing. And for like 3.5 weeks after that, I did not have any of my nervy leg pain. Like all
Oh,
my
really?
nerve pain symptoms got sorted. And there's this thing in the States where you can go and get a ketamine infusion like once a month. and you just like stay in the hospital, and they give you a really low dose over quite like 6 or 8 hours,
Yeah.
and then that seems to do a bit of resetting your nervous system
Wow.
for you.
That's interesting.
Um, yeah,
So
and so when
is that only in the States where you can pay for the
it's
equivalent?
only in the States where you can just pay doctors to give you drugs.
Right, yeah.
Because I mentioned it to my pain nurse, and I was like, so I've been reading a lot about ketamine infusions. She was like, no. I was like, but
It's
they're
like
really,
when you get accused of being a drug seeker and then you go and ask him for ketamine. It's
yeah.
like, yeah, yeah, drug seeker here.
And she was like, that's like rock stars and dying drugs.
Right.
Okay.
You can't have it.
But it really helped. It was crazy. Like I've never done like fun in quotes doses of ketamine. I've never like
Mm.
taken it at a party, but that was one where I was like, shit, yes, give me some more of this.
Yeah, could get used to that. A bit
Also
too used to it.
the good old morphine button.
Yeah, so do you take, like, I'd say, the fun drugs every day?
I take a small dose of dihydrocodeine every day. I take 120 milligrams of DHC, which is a 12-hour codeine, which turns into morphine,
Yeah,
technically inside your body. And it's a low enough dose that it doesn't cause like your testosterone to drop and
right.
problems with your bones and like all the stuff that like long-term morphine use triggers in your body. It's like
Right,
low
okay.
enough that it doesn't do that. And the pain
Just
doctor was
tickles you,
like,
just, yeah, stops the pain hitting quite as hard without
yeah, I
messing
don't
with
it
everything else.
it's yeah, it's just kind of there. I've been taking it for a really long time. Going off it would probably be more of a pain than staying on it at this point. Like
Right.
it's not hurting me, and I'm much better balanced, than I have been. And like you're saying, when they start tinkering with your medication, they're like, "Oh, you're
Yeah.
on quite a lot of this," and you're like, "Yeah, but I'm like not fucked up as much as I
Yeah,
could
I'm kind
be."
of okay with taking that much of it.
And they're
And
like, "Yeah, but I'm
you know
wondering
your own.
uncomfortable with what you're doing." You're like, "I'm fine."
And see, this is the thing, they like we know our own bodies. I know that, it's a tolerable level. I know that I feel okay. I know that I'm not having as many seizures. And it's like, yeah, things are ticking along. And then they say, let's just try reducing that one. And it's like, oh, you kind of have to do what they say because one day it might help. But you kind of know that, yeah, this is going to mess things up.
Well, the only thing worse than that is getting a new doctor. Ugh.
Ooh, ooh, yeah, yeah. Like my doctor generally, I won't slag him off. He used to be amazing, then he went through a period of time where he was very dismissive. And people said, "Why don't you change doctors?" And it's like I really can't be asked to go right from scratch and go through the whole process all over again.
Well, that's the thing. You go to doctor, you're like, here's my list of medications that I have that work for me.
Yes,
Please don't mess with them. And then
but
the new doctor's like, okay, let's rejig your plan. And you're like, no, but
do what I say. It works.
but the thing, and this is the doctors are so used to people, and people are stupid. But as we discovered, we're not people. We're bridge trolls.
Yes, yeah, we are outside of the realms of normal
We
humans.
are not human.
Come on.
So stop giving me your human doctoring.
Yeah, we want
I want
special
special
treatment.
doctoring, and I would like enough morphine to kill me, please.
And it will be fine.
It'll
Trust
be
me.
great. Just give it to me in a bottle. I was on 12-hour morphine for 9-ish months.
Okay, did that mess you up much?
It wasn't hugely high doses, but I remember everything being very flat,
Okay.
like a almost
J-
kind of like a painting, because I was just so at a distance from everything because the morphine was like
okay.
doing it. It was also kind of visually flat as well, weirdly.
Yeah, I was going to say, like, were you like emotionally flat as well? Did it like just
Ah,
put a blanket over everything?
well, that's kind of what morphine does, isn't it? It just
True,
kind of
true.
you're just kind of like morphine.
'Cause I find it gives me not flat emotions, but different. Like emotions, like,
alien
"Ooh,
emotions.
things are fluffy and things are sleepy, and I'm quite happy to wander around being a bit not quite with it. I
I
think it's
you
quite
can
nice.
just you can like you can stare at the wall. That's okay. That you're
Yeah,
staring
yeah,
at that wall right now. You
yeah.
don't got to be
Oh,
any place. There's
when
nothing
I
important.
tell the story about my nearly dying, there's lots of how pretty nothing is.
Just
I mean,
look at the.
when I say as when I say how pretty nothing is, I don't mean that as things aren't pretty, but that things are that shouldn't be pretty are amazingly pretty.
Yes, when you're
Yeah.
on the right things,
Yes.
just the emptiness of your own consciousness, just sitting there
Beautiful.
staring at stuff.
So,
Um,
what other drugs? So we've got morphine. You've tried the antidepressants.
Morphine,
Um,
antidepressants. I think like really the opiates are probably the most fun ones, as noted by the opiate epidemic. Um,
yes, yeah.
and then there's also your class C's, your cannabis and your mushrooms. Oh, that was what I was gonna say. So
Hmm.
I'll go back a couple bits. So before we got sidetracked, I was talking about the 30% thing.
Oh yes, yeah, yeah.
So like with chronic pain, depending on how your body is, your body will manufacture too many of a certain neuroreceptor,
Yeah.
and then depending on who you are, you'll manufacture different ones. So, like for
Okay.
me, my body made too many of the GABA receptor, so pregabalin works on me.
Okay.
Whereas
Yeah. Yeah.
another person whose body didn't make so many of the GABA receptor, pregabalin wouldn't work on them,
Okay. Okay.
which I just thought was an interesting way of like when you're at kind of this really fine end of medicine where like they're targeting the individual types of
Yeah. Yeah.
receptors on your
It's not
nerve.
just a blanket cover like paracetamol will help with some pain.
Yeah. And
Like
like
drilling right down into it.
yeah. And then with morphine as well, the other thing that I was wanting to talk about was opiate induced hyperalgesia.
Okay, that sounds complicated.
Uh which is a very fancy way of saying if you take too many opiates, your body reacts by making the nervous system louder.
Ah, okay, okay.
So
So
you've
is
got
this,
yeah.
yeah, so is it like the more you take, the more you need kind of thing?
It's not so much that. It's more like so we talked about like with morphine or opiates, it's like having a blanket, a big
Mm.
fuzzy, snuggly blanket made of love and moonbeams.
Yeah.
But it dulls everything. So then in response, your body's like, oh, everything's not quite as loud as it should be. I've got this blanket on me. So I need to turn all of my nervous system up to 11 to try and
Right.
get through this blanket that's been thrown over everything. So you have this paradoxical thing where you're on tremendous amounts of like enough opiates that you should be unconscious,
Mm.
and it's not working, and it's because your body's doing this paradoxical thing. And
Right.
my
Okay.
sister, who lives in the States, rest her soul, went through and she had two fentanyl patches,
Mm.
and like
That-
yeah,
That's
and
quite a lot.
they were talking about putting in a morphine pump inside
Wow.
because in the States your doctor only knows this one thing. They know prescribing the medication, or there'll be one doctor whose entire job it is to put pain pumps in people. If you
Right.
end up at
Okay.
that guy, you're like, oh, I'll give you a pain pump because that's my bag.
I'd be terrible with that when I've had surgeries, broken my leg, and they leave me with the magic morphine button, and it's kind
Oh,
of help yourself.
it
And I'm
really
like, okay, leave me alone with that. And the last time I had that, I was literally watching the machine, and as soon as I was allowed the next one, press it, have another go, and I think it was like I don't know, really, it was either 5, 10, or 15 minutes, whatever. I could have a little bit more.
yeah.
And the nurse came in and she said, "Are you using the morphine?" And I went, "Oh yeah." And she looked at the amount that was left, and she went, "Okay, we're taking the button off you." And I got confiscated. But
I so when I broke my wrist, I went in and I was like, and it was when I had my elbow surgery, I think. Yeah, so I had my elbow surgery, And normally they give you the morphine button for like one night after your surgery, and then the next day they take it away. So I was like, I am getting my fucking money's worth out of this morphine button. And I did. I was just like, bing, 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 bing. And I remember like the alarm started going off, and I buzzed the nurse, and she came in. I was like, "It's making noise. Make it stop." And then she looked and saw the empty syringe, and then kind of looked at me and was like, "Huh, that's not
Someone's
supposed
been
to
having
be
a party."
empty." She put another one in, and then I was like, "Bing, bing, bing." I don't think I managed to get through the whole other syringe because there's like quite
You
a
tried
lot.
hardest.
I gave it a run. And then and then the next day they were like, okay, we're taking your button away and we're sending you home. And then they sent me home, and then I had like the DTs because
Oh,
I was
really?
like in the hot shower, and I swear to God, I was like shivering. It was freezing. I had like my arm in a trash bag, steaming shower, and I'm like, why is it so cold in here?
It's like you've been to a festival or something and you've just taken everything, and then you've got home and the world makes no sense.
They literally just like, because normally you've got a day or two without the button to like, finish
Kind of like acclimatized.
landing. Instead, I was like, surgery, sleep, home. And then I'm just like, oh, my hand doesn't work. And why is it so cold? And
Did you find your hand automatically clenching, trying to press an invisible button? Why
I
won't
was
I
just,
get more
I was
drugs?
looking around trying to find it in my bed. There was a baby crawling on the ceiling. You see, like Ewan McGregor was running around. It was like a whole thing, like a whole thing. And that, I think, brings us to the end of today's journey through medication. It was
Wonderful.
slightly more meandering than we'd planned on. Both Naomi and I are, I think, a little bit spazzy today, but that's the podcast, isn't it?
Exactly. We're not always going to be on top form.
But hey, at least we're here,
Yeah,
which
we
is
made
more
it.
than can be said for other podcast hosts who aren't even hosting podcasts right now.
We will churn out podcasts no matter how shit we're feeling. And even if we can't function and have nothing to talk about, we'll be here.
There's going to be one that's 45 minutes of us just sounding like this.
I can go back to my Jim Henson old man.
Yeah, hello, I'm
that I
Naomi
started.
Strain.
Hello.
Maybe that'll be one where we just get a bunch of random medications and then go, hey, let's be Muppets.
We could, like, each week, perhaps we could do this is what I'm like on morphine and just get super high before doing the podcast. And each week try a different drug.
That would be fun.
It would be. For us, perhaps not for our listeners.
Actually, you know what? We're going to end the podcast here, but then we're going to talk a little bit more, and this will be on the Patreon, about illicit drugs, because you're not really allowed to talk about those on the old Facebooks.
No.
Like, you get yelled at, you get delisted. So hop on over to the Patreon, and we're going to talk about drugs some more.
Drugs. Yeah, let's do it.
All right. Bye, guys.
Bye.